the Davis family. Those crimes are not just against the Oakland City community or here on Spark Street. These crimes were against all of Atlanta. Because when gun violence touches this neighborhood and can claim the lives of two 13-year-olds, it touches every Atlanta neighborhood. And since those early morning hours, this police department has not tired in identifying who committed those crimes and bringing them to justice. And I want to acknowledge a number of the units that have been working since that morning and that have not stopped. Our homicide team, our gang unit, an analyst working out of public safety headquarters, the district attorney's office, and the FBI. And these individuals that committed the crime here on July 2nd were dangerous individuals that, if allowed to remain free on the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, were going to use guns again to harm. These individuals cannot just be taken off the street without risk to law enforcement. And thanks to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, our Apex unit, our ACE unit, and our fugitive units, we have taken into custody the last two individuals that we have sought for this horrible crime. And we couldn't do that without the community. Because if you remember, the last time we were here, we were going door to door on every home in this neighborhood asking for the community support. So for everyone that has provided a tip, that has called Crime Stoppers, for everyone that has worked with our investigators, I want to thank you. Because everyone has a role in keeping Atlanta safe. I'm going to turn the microphone now over to the special agent in charge of the FBI field office. And Zach Brown, I do want to thank you for all the work that your team has been providing. Long before you arrived in the city, we've had a strong partnership with the FBI. And for us to be able to stand here and tell the Atlantans we have removed 2 more dangerous murders off the street, we want to thank you for your role in making that happen. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. I'm Paul Brown, the special agent in charge of FBI Atlanta's division. And it's first and foremost, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the Davis and Freeman families. No family should have to bury their 13-year-old children. The FBI is here as part of our joint efforts with the Atlanta Police and other law enforcement partners to solve cases just like this. The FBI assisted this case. It's part of our ongoing commitment to APD to combat violent crime and gang violence that's plaguing our communities. Everyone should feel safe and secure in their community and their homes. Atlanta's violent crimes and gang squads work every day with APD and our other law enforcement partners in concert and through our Atlanta Metro Major Offenders Task Force and through our Atlanta Safe Streets Task Force to get violent criminals like Tredon Crawford and Ali Caldwell off the streets. We will continue to use every resource available, working with our partners to include the Atlanta Police Department to keep our community safe. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Major Pete Malecki. I'm over our major crime section. So as Chief Shearbaum stated, several weeks after this incident took place, we were out here holding a very similar press conference, and we were asking for the help from the community. In just a moment, I'm going to show you some pictures of 7 individuals that we were able to take into custody in conjunction with this tragic incident. I stood here and told you the story how on July 2nd, just after midnight of last year, we had 2 13-year-olds and 11-year-old celebrating the birthday of Lamont Fremont. He had just turned 13, and he got to experience about 30 minutes of being a teenager before his life was taken. And when I turn it over to Major Woolfolk, he's going to discuss some of the investigative techniques and really the gang involvement and the gang ties that led to this incident taking place. But one thing I want to make absolutely clear, and I said it then and I'll say it again, these kids were innocent victims. So when we talk about the gang involvement, these 2 13-year-olds and this 11-year-old, they didn't have a gang involvement. We didn't have interactions with them as a police department. They were good kids in the community, and unfortunately, their futures, their lives were taken. So I do want to thank all the community members that gave us tips and information on this case. And while I can't say necessarily that one individual tip broke this thing open, each tip is like a little puzzle piece, and we took every one of those, glued them together, and we're able to thankfully bring this case to resolution. And I will say that even though we have made 7 arrests, we never stop working cases. So if anyone has more information, we would ask that you do bring that forward, provide that to us, and we will certainly investigate every detail of those tips. So right now we're going to show some images of the individuals that we have made arrests on. So 5 of these individuals we already had in custody, we had arrested. Some of them were in jail on previous charges not related to this. So once we established probable cause, we're able to serve the jails in which they're housed with these arrest warrants. So the first one there is Mr. Sanders. Let me just flip through him. Richard Hollis, Reginald Thomas, Marcus Crawford, Mr. Mobley, Tradon Crawford, and Tradon is one of the individuals that we took into custody yesterday. And then the final seventh individual is Mr. Ollie Caldwell. If you notice with these individuals, two of them share the same last name. It's because they are brothers. So it seems like there was some type of family history of gang activity, gang involvement. And unfortunately, on the night of July 2nd, that escalated to two 13-year-old children losing their lives. So now I'm going to turn it over to Major Ralph Woolfolk, and he will discuss a little bit of the gang conflict and some of the investigative techniques and procedures that we used to get us here today. So thank you.
Thanks, Major. My name is Major Ralph Woolfolk of the Violent Crime Interdiction Section. And I first want to say the overall theme of this case is grown men playing gangster that left two of our children in graves and a community in fear. And we know in these communities that strength is about building community, not destroying it. And in this case, leaving two young people in their grave. I want to thank the community that was here with our investigation team from the inception of this incident. Out on the night of the incident, we not only received investigative assistance from this community, but we also saw a community that was full of compassion and love. Video evidence depicted several people in this community pouring out of their apartments, attempting to triage wounds, attempting to transport persons to the hospital, and making several 911 calls from this community that were used throughout our investigation that led ultimately, with their assistance, to some of the apprehensions in this case. I want to also thank the FBI, who has not only been an incredible partner to us throughout this investigation, but has also been a consistent partner to us throughout our fight, as Chief Shearbaum always says, against gangs, guns, and drugs. We have had a consistent partnership with the FBI that has aided us in suppressing our violent crime. And for our team members internally in the Atlanta Police Department that spent countless hours, investigative hours, a tandem approach, collaborative approach between homicide, between gangs, between our ACE unit, between our intelligence analysts, and several other internal units throughout the police department that spent countless hours working this case. I remember getting a call from the gang unit over 4th of July weekend asking to go up on a wiretap investigation. And subsequent to that call, the next 48 hours were spent on the phone with our district attorney's office, who was a great support to us throughout this investigation and trying to stand that T3 up. And through that investigation, our gang unit sacrificed vacations. Our gang unit sacrificed time with loved ones, sacrificed relationships throughout the course of this investigation. In 5,424 man-hours from July 10th through October 30th, that was spearheaded by the Atlanta Police Gang Unit in a wire room to ultimately assemble key facts and elements leading us to where we are in the investigation. And for the investigation aspect of this, Lamont Freeman was allowed to be a 13-year-old for 27 minutes before gang violence ultimately took his life. Gang violence that was orchestrated by adults in our city. And cowardly acts of an Atlanta-based rapper that decided to go over into a rival gang stronghold and shoot a music video in a place that he knew he should not have been. And in the subsequent days, we saw homicides and shootings, and ultimately the deaths of two children as a result of his cowardly actions. And you know who you are. And I tell you that this team will work relentlessly to hold you and the persons that you are affiliated with responsible for those actions. Ultimately, there are components of this investigation that led back to a prison in the state of Georgia where an illegal phone, a contraband phone, was used to orchestrate these acts. There was a hit called by a high-ranking gang member on the opposite side of that opposing rapper's gang. And I'll tell you today, that gang was Goodfellas. Goodfellas Criminal Street Gang being one of the most hyper-violent gangs in the city of Atlanta. And we will pursue you relentlessly in making sure that we keep this city safe and suppressing violence throughout our city. And lastly, I'll say, as Major Malecki indicated, there is still a $50,000 reward that is on the table for additional information in relationship to this case. And our detectives and our officers, through all of the internal units and external units that you see here today, will be knocking on doors and working with this community that has been so resilient to collect additional information to continue to move this investigation forward. Thank you.
We'll now open up for questions. We'll start on that side with Tom Regan.
Yeah, well, these three juveniles, I mean, was it a crossfire situation? Were they targeted? Was there a gun battle between rival gang elements?
No, there was not. We do believe that the three juveniles, two who were killed, one who was injured, they were just outside on the steps celebrating a birthday party. We don't believe that they were the intended targets of that gunfire. But these individuals that we have shown indiscriminately opened fire on that apartment complex, resulting in these three children getting injured and killed.
And one quick follow-up question. The person who made the call for a hit from prison, that isn't one of the people that were already in jail. This is another individual we're talking about.
Yeah, the individual that orchestrated this from Hancock State Prison, he was already incarcerated.
So he's going to be charged in this, of course, too.
Yeah, he has been charged.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions. The last two people, I know that you said that one of them was Trayvon Crawford. Who was the other person that you just arrested? Ali Caldwell. Okay. And so then, are we going to name the gang on the other side? You named the Goodfellas, but what's the name of the gang that's affiliated with this rapper that we're not naming?
Yeah, at this time, so not to compromise the integrity of this investigation, we will not be naming that gang. It is a hyper-violent hybrid street gang here in the city of Atlanta, and there's subsequent information that will follow in the upcoming preliminary hearing.
So these guys that were arrested were Goodfellas members?
Yes. Yep.
Question? No further questions? Chief, you can just remind everyone.
Crime Stoppers, again, I want to commend the dedication of the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department. This is a case that I was regularly updated on, and Major Woolfolk and Major Malecki gave you some oversight, but they are understating when they talk about the commitment of the men and women of this department to bring closure to families and justice to this neighborhood. That is for every homicide we do. And so as I stand here today, there are clearly family members watching that still are waiting for justice for this family member. The commitment that is arrayed behind me, that I see around this group, is still active in every other homicide that we have open at this time. So Crime Stoppers, we encourage everyone, if you have information that will help us to bring justice to another family of this city, please use it. Do your duty as a citizen of this city to be able to provide information. And I want to thank you to the members of the media. You oftentimes have delivered to the community information that has caused individuals to pick up the phone and call Crime Stoppers or to use the online version to give us information. So thank you for what you do to keep our city safe. And just again, to the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department, wherever you serve, thank you for what you're doing for the second year on the road to reduce homicides in the city, robberies in the city, and shootings. I appreciate you all and so appreciative of the work you do across the city. Thank you all very much.
Chief, did you say the mother of one of the victims was here?
That's correct.
Would she care to say anything?
And she didn't step down here today. We were speaking with her before this, but yeah. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. For more information, just make sure you visit the APD Public Affairs website. There you'll have the details. I'll make sure you get all of the pictures here.
And you just heard from Chief of Police Darren Sherbaum with Atlanta Police Department talking about this triple shooting in Spark Street that left three teenagers shot. 2 of them died from that shooting. And as you heard from the news conference, 7 arrests announced, and police really asking, they're saying this investigation is not over. They're working to get additional details, and they are asking for any and all information that anyone might have, highlighting that there is still a $50,000 reward on the table. We're going to break down all of the latest information that we got from this news conference and the latest of what we know on that Sparks Street, Southwest Atlanta triple shooting that led to the deaths of 2 teenagers and a third one suffering from injuries. Again, 7 arrests made. We're going to keep it right here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. Join us back here at Atlanta News First News at 3, where we will continue to bring you the latest coverage on this and other stories in and around Metro Atlanta.